Hi, and welcome. If you're watching this live or if you're watching it recorded, today we're going to be talking about how to get straighter knees during dance class. If you're wondering who I am Dr. C, and I am a doctor of physical therapy, a certified strength and conditioning specialist, former professional dancer and instructor, and the founder of Dance Health. And my mission is to help dancers like you prevent injuries, treat injuries, and perform stronger, and ideally change the world of dance so that it can be a healthier environment for everybody. So my goal is to integrate science and art to make the world of dance a healthier place. So today we're talking about straighter knees. And before we dive into straighter knees, I want to say that if you're having any pain with your knee issues or challenges, that you should definitely get that checked out first before you jump into any of my videos on treating movement impairments, because this may actually be caused by some sort of injury, and that you really should get treated before you just dive into mobilizing yourself or going through exercises. The other thing that I want to say is that I really value doing videos like this over just posting some knee exercises online, because as a physical therapist, what I do is I evaluate and treat people. So first we want to see, why is it that your knees aren't straight? Not just here's 5 exercises for straighter knees, right? We don't know why. There are so many different reasons why your knees might not be as straight as you want them to be during class. And so we're going to dive into all those possibilities. So with all that being said, I think that we should start off with talking about the anatomy of the knee, and you'll have to bear with me as I try to draw some images of the anatomy for you. Hopefully, if at the very least, this will just keep you entertained to see my art skills or lack thereof. So we're going to dive into the anatomy of the knee and what is it that you're really activating and using when you go to straighten the knee. So if we see this as the A for anterior, this is the front of your body, and this is P for posterior, this is the back. Okay, so here's the front of your quad. You got your little kneecap there, your shin, and then your foot, the back of the thigh, right? And then the calf muscle. And you got your heel, arch, your toes, right? On point. There you go. Hopefully you can tell what we're drawing here. So we have, in general, more than two, but let's simplify it today. So we have a couple main muscle groups that we're using when we're straightening the knee. Now the muscles in the front, so they're like along the front of your thigh. These are your quadriceps muscles, okay? The quadriceps muscles work to straighten the knee. Okay, so the quadriceps muscles work to straighten the knee. So when these muscles shorten or activate, then you get a straight knee. Okay, the antagonist to the straight knee, or the muscle group that does the opposite, is in the back of the thigh. So back here, right? These are the hamstrings, generally. We call them the hamstrings, and these act to bend the knee, right? Okay. Same thing with the muscles in the back of the leg here. The calves, the gastroc crosses the knee, and the hamstrings cross the knee. So any sort of muscles that cross the knee are going to cause an action at that knee joint, right? So the gastrocnemius also bends the knee, okay? The muscles in the front of the shin do not cross the knee, so we're not really generally concerned with that right now. All right, so the concept is that the muscles in the front straighten the knee, the muscles in the back bend the knee. So if you are a dance instructor and you're trying to cue your dancers to get straighter knees, you would not cue them to use their hamstrings, right? You wouldn't say activate the back of the leg. You would be saying activate the front of the leg. And we'll get into techniques of how to cue this, and some neuromuscular techniques that I use when I'm teaching people how to walk again after a stroke. There's certain ways that you can activate certain muscle groups or help them activate certain muscle groups. And that's going to be for another video. But to start, these are the basics. These are the muscles that you're using. Okay. So now let's get into some possibilities of why your knees might not be straight. Okay, let's get into some different reasons why your knees might not be as straight as you want them to be during class. Okay, so we're going to go over 6 different reasons, and there are a lot of nuances to all of them, but we're going to at least cover kind of the broad topics today, and then we'll dive into more detail in our upcoming videos, courses, classes. Okay, so the first one I want to go over is the most obvious, is joint mobility, right? Joint mobility. And we have a spectrum here. We have a spectrum of actual knee joint mobility. Do you naturally have hyperextension within the knee joint, or do you naturally have knee flexion, or maybe neutral, right? So over here we have hyperextended. And then over here we have hypomobile. And then anywhere in between, like you could just have straight, pretty straight knees, right? Okay. So this is a spectrum that we could have. And this spectrum could be due to genetics. This is just how your knees are. And there's not much you can do about it because it's anatomic. Or it could be that there is something, especially on this end, restricting you from getting your knees more mobile. Like maybe it's possible for you to get more mobility in your knee joint, but there's something restricting it. And so at this point, I'm going to say again, if you're having a joint restriction with pain, you need to make sure that you go see a PT, because you could be, have an injury that you're dealing with that you need to rehab before you jump into trying to get those knees straighter, right? But if you're having no pain, we have a couple pretty quick tricks that we can implement in order to get these knees straighter. So we have this mechanism within our knee where when we go to full straightening, the shin bone is supposed to rotate out 5 or 10 degrees to get us to straighten all the way. So if there's something that's keeping your shin bone from rotating all the way, then it could be keeping you from straightening all the way. So sometimes all a dancer needs is some manual therapy in order to get that shin bone to rotate outward, or to get the shin bone to move in a certain direction to get it to go straight, right? And that's something that a physical therapist can assess, but we will also get into how to assess it yourself in our next call, okay? The second thing that I want to talk about is neuromuscular control, okay? Neuromuscular control. Now, this is a really fancy word. So essentially, neuro means nerves, right? Muscular means muscles. And essentially, your nerves are what control your muscles. Your nerves tell your muscles what to do and when, how much of the muscle to fire, when the muscle fires compared to other muscles, all of that good stuff. So if you have good neuromuscular control, you can tell your muscles to do exactly what you want them to do when you want them to, in order to achieve the straightening look that you want. But sometimes you are kind of disconnected, like sort of Bambi-like, right? So you're trying to tell, your brain's trying to tell your legs what to do, and they're doing their own thing. You're like, I don't know how to tell my knees what to do, right? This can be neuromuscular control. Now I see this in both camps of the spectrum, the hypomobile and the hyperextended. Sometimes the hypomobile are the people, that don't know how to get their quad to activate at the right time compared to their hamstrings activating, right? We need the hamstrings to relax and the quads to activate when in order to get the knees straight. The other side of the camp, the hypermobile people who have the hyperextended knees, they don't really know where to stop with the knees. So sometimes they'll either sit back in the hyperextended knee, or they'll contract the quad or the hamstring too much, right? So then they're slightly bent. So it's a matter of practicing that control of, the perfect balance to get that knee straight. There's different techniques that I can go over with you in some further calls. It's really kind of in the weeds. So today we're just going to go over these main topics, and we'll get into it next time. Okay, so the third one is going to be flexibility, right? So we're going to draw a picture of our leg again, right? So we've got the front and the back side of the leg. There's the thigh, the long kneecap, calf, the foot, the heel. Oh, wow, that's really bad. Okay. At least draw a point shoe. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it has to look nice. All right. It's not getting much better. There you have it. All right, so flexibility. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, kind of like Blue's Clues. You ready? What muscles, when not flexible enough, cause the knee to be bent? Which muscle group? Is it the muscle group in the front or is it the muscle group in the back? When it's tight, they'll have a bent knee. Okay, I'm going to tell you now. You ready? Got your answers submitted? It's the back of the leg, the hamstring and the calves. Remember, we talked about how these ones act to bend the knee. So if these ones shorten, right? If they come together, they shorten this way, you're going to get a slight bend in the knee. So it's possible that you may actually just have tight hamstrings or tight calves that are keeping your knee slightly bent. This also can be very nuanced because you may have shortened gastrocnemius or calf because you have ankle mobility issues or hip issues as well. So there's a lot that goes into this. But in general, hamstring and calf length, if they're tight, it can give you a bend, right? All right, number 4. Neural hypomobility, or I'm just going to put tension, okay, to make it a little easier. So neural tension. I didn't realize this until, like, kind of embarrassing, until I went to college, that there are these really long nerves in your body. So gross. I was totally grossed out by that when I learned that. But essentially, your brain, goes into your spinal cord, and then it turns into these nerves that go down your arms and your legs. So you have some nerves that come out of your lower back, and they turn into one giant nerve, and they go behind the booty, behind the back of the thigh, all the way down into the foot. Gross, I'm telling you. Crazy, right? So people can actually get neural tension, and they think that it's actually just hamstring tightness. So if you're in the group of friends who is always stretching their hamstrings and not getting anywhere with it, it's probably neural tension. So the thing about nerves that a lot of people don't know is that nerves are not elastic. They don't stretch, nor do they like to be stretched, right? So all of your stretching might actually just be pissing off your nerves more than they already were, making your problem worse, right? So the nerves are supposed to glide through your tissues, but they aren't supposed to stretch through your tissues, right? Now, if they're getting stuck somewhere, like let's say you have an anatomical deformity, some sort of abnormality, or tightness in a certain area where that nerve is getting caught up and it can't glide the way it needs to when you move, then that can restrict your motion. So I see a lot of dancers that have neural tension that's giving them bent knees and a really hard time getting their splits. So if that sounds like you, this could be your camp, right? Okay, the 5th one is strength. All right, if your quad is really pretty weak, you'll notice it even when you're walking. So if you're walking along and you just sit back, you have this moment where you sit back into hyperextension in your knee, that usually means you have quad weakness. And this is something I see a lot in my patients. I say, okay, just show me how you walk, right? And if you see that, like sitting back, every time they stand on the leg, it's usually quad strength or a lack of quad strength, right? And so this can play into my friends that sit back into their hyperextension. So if your quads are actually weak, you're going to be sitting back in your hyperextension and relying on your knee joint to hold you up instead of your quads supporting, right? Okay. The 6th one is interesting. It's actually core stability, believe it or not. Okay, now this one's really nerdy, and that's why I left it, for the last point, because those of you who are still following along with me are obviously enjoying this nerdy stuff. So here we go. We're gonna get very nerdy here. Core stability. What does my core have to do with my knees being straight, right? There's this interesting phenomenon that we see, and it reminds me a lot of Bambi, right? So when you aren't stable here, you don't have as good mobility in your extremities, your arms and your legs. And this is a way for your body to subconsciously protect you, right? So if you think about it, if this isn't strong, you're going to be a little, right? So what does your body do? Bends the knees. And how does that benefit you? It lowers your center of gravity, right? So when you lower your center of gravity, you are less likely to fall. You have better balance and you have less momentum if you do topple. So that reduces your risk of injury. So subconsciously, your body will put you in like we call crouch gait sometimes if it feels unstable. Um, so good core stability, surprisingly, can help you get your knees straighter. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to go over how to assess yourself for all of these possible reasons why your knees aren't as straight as you want them to be, right? So you're like, great, because so now I get why like one of these might be me or multiple could be me, right? How do I know which ones are me? So that's going to be our next video, and I really hope that you join in on the next video because think about it. Think about how often you're getting these corrections to get your knees straighter. Think about how much this is like mentally weighing you down, physically weighing you down, keeping you back from your fullest potential when there's so much information scientifically that can help you get there, right? So I really hope that you join me in our next call. There is information, there's a link in my bio, or there's a link somewhere below this video if you're on YouTube to the next video. And I really encourage you to join me if you'd like to figure out how to test yourself with these things. Following that video, we're then going to dive into, okay, once you know what your issue is, how do you address it? Because based on what your issue is, there's a different intervention, right? There's a different way of going about fixing it. So what I love about going through this program slowly with you and in depth with you is that it's really customized for you based on your body, your unique body, the way that your joints move, your muscles move, your nerves connect to the muscles, right? So that is amazing because then you get to really customize your program and not just kind of do 3 exercises from the internet about how to get straighter knees in class. This is going to be so much more effective for you. And I really think that's worth it to you as a dancer, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing you at that call. Again, go ahead and look for the link in my bio or some sort of link below and join me in the next call. All right, thank you guys. Be well, happy dancing.